Welcome to Smart Route, the podcast by CallTrackingMetrics, where you'll hear stories from businesses at the intersection of marketing, customer experience, and sales. We're sitting down with business leaders and industry experts to dive deep into the path they took to find success. Here's your host, Courtney Tyson.
Hello and welcome to episode 16 of Smart Route. I'm your host and strategic partnership manager at CallTrackingMetrics, Courtney Tyson. Today we're going to be speaking with Jon Lenz, managing director at Br8kthru, about his fine dining approach to customer relationships and how this has led to great success for both Br8kthru and their partners. Welcome, Jon. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Courtney. Great to meet you, and thank you for having me.
Excited to talk with you today. So just to give you a little bit of our audience a little background on you, Jon has been helping companies unravel their complex customer journeys for more than 10 years. What started as a career in copywriting quickly segued to account management, digital, and technology strategy. He had founded Br8kthru with the intention to build on what he learned both working in agencies and as a consultant. And so with that, Jon, can you tell us a little bit more about Br8kthru?
Yeah, sure. Wow. Kudos to who wrote that intro for you. So Br8kthru, we're a Minneapolis-based marketing and technology firm, and we strive to deliver Michelin Star standards. I know we're going to talk more about that later, so I'll keep going. The way we approach things, we work to solve complex problems with marketing and technology to unlock growth and drive business results. Generally, we're doing that in a couple key verticals: industrial automation, healthcare, and all the many facets of healthcare, and then e-commerce companies. And all these companies, we're working to help them engage with their ideal customers, generating demand, nurturing leads, and transforming digital systems. So we're just over a little bit more. We're just over 20 people strong, and have some of the best and brightest minds on this side of the mighty Mississippi. I know you can't see my face, but I'm kind of pedantic, and that's an inside joke because we're in the Twin Cities and we straddle the Mississippi River. So we have a tremendously strong team, and we were fortunate to be recognized in 2021 as the best digital marketing firm in Minnesota. We're a finalist for that award this year, and have yet to learn if we're going to take home the top prize. But that's a little bit about Br8kthru.
That's fantastic. Well, congratulations. Obviously, so you are award winning, and that's based on how you've built your business. So tell us more about the core values behind your approach to customer relationships.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it probably would help to just kind of state what they are first, and then I want to quickly sidebar. But so our core values are empathy, continuous improvement, collective accountability, and Michelin Star standards. Now, if it's okay with you, I'd like to take a quick sidebar and do a little bit of a history in terms of how we got there, which I think could be helpful for listeners, and then share my hot take of the day. Is that juicy
sounds great.
or what?
Sounds great.
Okay.
Let's do it.
All right. So how we got there? You mentioned some of this, but I started Br8kthru in 2013, just as some grad school side hustle. Around 2016, we started having employees. Fast forward a couple of years, we were profitable and growing, but our culture and positioning was maybe lacking clarity and definition as we kind of hit that next step of growth, which I would call maybe a couple $1 million in revenue or 12 to 15 employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, things were going fine. I just wanted to have a bit more clarity in terms of where we were headed in the future. So I'm an athlete. I'm a collegiate athlete, a retired athlete now, but I was a collegiate athlete and have basically been coached all of my life. And how that translates into today is I've been tremendously fortunate to have friends and advisors and mentors like in my circle or on my bus. So it was actually late 2019, early 2020, pre-pandemic. I engaged a business coach it took the process to find the right person took a little while, but with really two main reasons. One was to become a better leader, and two was to help clarify and get more focus and clarity of like where Br8kthru was going to be headed. And I very much acknowledge that my role needed to change and evolve to start thinking that way. So the first 6 to 9 months of that coaching engagement was challenging in the sense that we were working on really future focused strategic plans. And so we followed the scaling up methodology, but it's very similar to EOS or traction. I'm sure a lot of your listeners, if not yourself, are familiar with those frameworks. And so the first big effort was mapping out your one-page strategic plan. And so that basically starts with, hey, what's your 10-year big, hairy, audacious goal? And for Breakthrough, we determined it was to be the best marketing and technology firm in the Midwest. So by 2030, that was our goal. And then there are other attributes to that, like we want to have 50 or 60 employees. We want to be known as consummate professionals. We want to have an amazing office and a satellite presence. So there's a lot of qualitative metrics, but also a lot of quantitative metrics as well. And I'm not going to get into that component of it, but you take that 10-year big, hairy, audacious goal, and then you begin to break it into a 5-year plan and a 3-year plan and a 1-year plan, and then suddenly 90-day goals, and you're developing this cadence. So that holistic document, that one-page strategic plan, or the equivalent of that vision traction organizer, is up in our office today. We still look at it, we still update it, but that mapped out the plan. The second piece that we did as a part of this pretty foundational work to engage in some of these frameworks was reevaluate our core values as we started to grow. This was really difficult. I'll qualify that. It was a lot of reflections and a lot of reading from my standpoint, and then working sessions with our coach and with our leadership team to determine if our core values at the time really reflected us and where we wanted to go. Then we decided, we need to enroll the team in this. This needs to be a collaborative effort that the team needs to feel invested in. So we provided additional reading. We gave them a survey, and then tried to prep them to come in a mindset for a couple of working sessions to define what they are. And so we landed on empathy, continuous improvement, collective accountability, and Michelin Star standards. But then rolling them out, we even defined them. So there's a supplementary document for anyone that joins Breakthrough of like, hey, here are our core values, but here's what they mean to us at Breakthrough, and here are some examples. This is storytelling, but like here are some examples of other employees who have exemplified these over the years. So that was a little context on how we got to those core values. Make sense so far?
Yes, it's a wonderful story, right? So you engaged the coach who would help you establish your goals in terms of your overarching goals to the, I guess more granular goals. And then you plan it out over a period of time, got the team involved in establishing those core values. And those core values are, just to confirm, empathy, continuous improvement, collective accountability, Michelin Star standards, which I love. It's a wonderful story. So I guess let's talk a little bit more about, this Michelin Star standard. I love that you use this, right? I've worked in building customer relationships my entire career, so
sure,
I'm very passionate about this, and building those strong relationships. And I love that you use this standard. So, what role does the Michelin Star standard play in the business, both internally, but when you're client facing as well?
Yeah, I want to get there, but I want to give my hot take for listeners, just because I think it's going to help ground our discussion.
Okay.
So in my mind, as I was prepping for this, I almost struggled because not everyone is going to aspire to provide Michelin Star standards for whatever customers in whatever business. But really, I think if you ladder that up just a tad or one level, my take is really that what I want to kind of be my thesis for listeners is that really core values define the culture and positioning of your company. They just do. Truly committing to those core values is what's going to create those opportunities and unlock success. And I'm here to say, unfortunately for Breakthrough, it has, so far so good. But, for listeners, we're going to talk more about Breakthrough's commitment to Michelin Star standards. And I hope that we can apply some learnings based on how we've evolved in our approach. But the headline is that finding those core values and really that resonate for those organizations and really leaning into those and committing to those are what is going to lead to success. Right.
Sure.
So that's just my hot take.
Okay.
So to your point about how Michelin Star standards factors into our business internally and client facing, is that correct?
Yes. Yep.
So, today we aim to have these values really drive every interaction that we have with our clients, our employees, our community, and other stakeholders. And that's also for the academicians out there. That is a contrarian opinion to Milton Friedman's take about how an organization's sole purpose is to generate profit. But I think at first, it's easy to look at that of the lens of just client relationships, but then it's easy to expand it as well. So it's an interesting core value because there is duality. Um, from a practical standpoint, we can evaluate every facet of our business based on a standard, a really high bar that we've done a lot of work internally to understand and acknowledge and get on the same page. But
Hmm.
aspirationally, this also aligns with our 10-year big, hairy, audacious goal of being the best marketing and technology firm in the Midwest. So there's a lot of runway, and we're pretty early in the journey. Um, so
Sure.
from a practical standpoint, some of the changes that were inspired by this commitment, if I can go into this.
Sure. Absolutely.
So on the practical side, employee retention and recruitment, um, really working to find the right kind of employees for the team that we were building. That impacts things like our interview strategy, the goal of finding employees that are going to be a long-term fit, not just filling a seat. It has trickled down to updating our job descriptions, the copy and content on our website, updating our interview process. Like we've talked about, what does a Michelin Star standards interview process look like? And even what does the follow-up to candidates look like if we don't move forward with them? So
Hmm.
we've upped, instead of just like, hey,
Sure.
sorry, you weren't a fit for our position, like we're working to provide constructive feedback on what was impressive about this individual and why we didn't move forward with them at Breakthrough. And in a couple of cases, we've actually referred candidates that we've spoken to in the last like 6 months to other opportunities because it's like, hey, you would be a great fit here, and we would love to stay connected. I'm happy to be an advocate and help introduce you to XYZ company, if possible, right?
That's wonderful. Hmm.
Um, so beyond interviewing and employee retention, it's really impacted our onboarding process. I think onboarding is a really hot topic in business in general right now with just all the
Hmm.
changes in the market and going hybrid. So just a lot of big improvements to how we onboard employees, not just over the last 12 to 18 months. And I think it's less about onboarding employees so that they can get in and start doing the work. It's more onboarding them and getting them acclimated with the culture and the
Sure.
values and the soft skills so that they're able to have autonomy to make decisions in a way that like aligns with our values and drive the company forward, from the bottom up.
Right. So let's ingrain that confidence in them as they come through the door so they could really blossom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Um, we made a buddy system. That was I take no credit for this, but it's a lateral pairing of team members that are on, diverse team members on opposite teams, just to ensure they have another resource and outlet for cultural onboarding. So we've dedicated budgets to this. There's scheduled coffee meetings and 15-minute huddles and lunches, for the first 6 months to just make sure that that as a new team member they are supported by someone not in their direct pod of employees, to get more culturally ingrained and acclimated with Breakthrough.
Hmm.
Um, and then lastly, I mean, we implemented a wellness program, which is probably the least surprising thing of any company during COVID, but it continues to get revamped and updated. And actually, this last quarter, I can't take credit for this because we had a client that did it, but we implemented a quarterly mental health day. So I report out on business performance to the team, 15 days following the close of the quarter. And for us, that's a calendar quarter. And what we've said is that the following Friday, so basically after we've closed out the quarter and shared out performance as a team, the following Friday is a quarterly mental health day. And the only requirement of our team, is to take a picture of what they're doing with a little description and share it to a company Slack channel, to kind of spread the wealth and knowledge and inspire others to do other, health and wellness activities. So it's been pretty impactful.
That's great and very necessary in today's world. So it's a wonderful benefit.
Yeah.
So we talked about, how your core values affect, the business both internally amongst the team, hiring, right? Also when client facing. We talked a little bit about client facing, right? So
A little bit.
I guess let's talk a little more about that, right? Your core values and how you expect your team members to, I guess, maybe embody them, right, when they're client facing or when they're approaching new clients as well.
Sure. Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that two ways. So I think client facing, so we've applied a lot of this level of service from the hospitality industry, and we did a lot of work, to educate and benchmark not only restaurants and hotels, to understand that like the human component is absolutely critical. It's not just the quality of the deliverables; it's the service you provide. But on the work quality, it's absolutely caused us or been a catalyst for us to review work products and deliverables, and even what we're proposing, pre sale, to make sure that this is going to align with Michelin Star standards and that it aligns with client expectations, that the education is there. There's definitely a heightened awareness on our team to level up to those Michelin Star standards. And I think one thing that has very much organically happened is the team has really endorsed the idea of doing kind of postmortems or SWOT analysis on our workflow and process and output, after big projects or launches or client engagements. Like we could be mid client engagement, but if we get through a big launch or a big campaign, and that's a really good opportunity to enroll the team, but make sure that we're capturing what went well and where we can improve. And it's almost in a way like identifying how we can improve the customer experience in real time.
So, Jon, would you tell us a bit more about the impact this new way of finding ideal clients has had on the business, both culturally and on Breakthrough's bottom line?
Yeah, great question. Well, first, the clients that we work with have an impact beyond our bottom line. They're a part of our culture, and in a way, they're helping inform and create that culture. But let's start with cultural impact. So, Team Breakthrough is a passionate bunch, and part of our brand promise actually includes, we are an extension of your team, and you will be treated like a VIP. So when our values and cultures align with our clients, it makes it that much more fulfilling and impactful to engage in our work together, for our team and the client, and really drive those results. We collaborate a lot with our clients. And another evolution or result of this Michelin Star evolution is this notion that we actually have started to take on fewer clients. So we kind of say we have fewer clients, but deeper partnerships. And that's something that has sort of organically happened as we've leaned more into this approach and these values and these clients that we can build more longer term relationships with. That's a good segue to how it impacts our bottom line. So in terms of the bottom line, since we started leaning into these core values and the overarching commitment to change as an organization, our business performance and culture has only improved year over year, from Q1 2022 to Q1 2021. We're looking at about a 10 to 15% increase in profitability, and a 20 to 25% increase in revenue. And then one other metric that we started tracking was employee retention, which is really above average and only improving as well. So there are some business metrics that tie into this as well.
That's great. I love too how you say your offering is premium, right? I think that's kind of like the tagline that I've taken away from this, is that you're offering a unique service, but it's a premium service, and folks want that. They want that kind of that nurturing, right? They want you to get to know them before you do business with them. So what would you recommend, or I guess what would your recommendations, Jon, be for a company that's currently rethinking their values and approach to customer relationships? I know that you talked a lot about reevaluating your core values.
Yeah.
What timing do you suggest for that, and what other things should companies be doing to ensure that they're establishing these values and really understanding who they are, right? Finding themselves in a sense.
It's a great question, Courtney. I think, well, one, and I hope listeners learn from the things that I've learned, sometimes painfully, but value should not come from the top down. They can be generated anywhere, but they really need to be derived from the team. And that team needs to be fully enrolled and invested from the bottom up, or however your team is organized. I would also say that it's a challenge. It really forces people to think differently, especially, if this is something that is, and it normally is, like it's something outside of the norm. It's going to require a different level of thinking. It's a different type of task or activity. And so you're asking people to think differently. And with that, I think from a leadership level, knowing it's going to require communication and more communication, and just all those things that come with change management, it's going to require a lot of that. It's going to be uncomfortable. I had a mentor once tell me that growth happened, and I was I think it was actually during part of this like early pandemic, really trying to adapt change that like they said, John, growth happens when you're uncomfortable. And there's certainly a tipping point there, but in a way, you kind of need to get the team uncomfortable or get them acclimated to exploring into some of this unknown territory, so that they can all be fully invested and enrolled. But it is so worth it. I think another angle is to explore the buyer's journey. I touched on this a little bit briefly earlier, but we're also taking a look at, and we've begun to map out just this was initially it was a whiteboard exercise, but let's look at the buyer's journey or our client experience, from brand awareness and pre-sale through engagements into ongoing relationships and all those different touch points on where the customer is delighted and where things are going great, or where there's not necessarily the most valuable added touch point. So I think looking at so we've begun to map and assess that out to understand where are their high points, where are there maybe valleys, and where can we look at other areas to really level up and provide this Michelin experience. Is that helpful?
It's extremely helpful, and I think, as I said before, it makes tons of sense, and I think that your approach is unique, but people value it because they don't want to waste time, right? I think that's something you're helping a lot of folks with, right? It's either we're a good fit or we're not, but the fact that you're taking the time to understand what their goals are, what are their pain points, what's really going to help them to be successful, and then rolling with that it's all about getting to know the customer. It's funny because I've like I said, I've worked in account management my whole life, and it's never been having that signed deal that makes me happy. It's always knowing that the client is walking away happy, knowing that I help them achieve something that's going to make them look good, right? Like that's what makes me happy, and I feel that you probably share that same sentiment.
Yeah, it's more of a output isn't the right word. Like it is an output, but the ultimate deliverable isn't the one signed deal. It's the long-term relationship of trust in our words, right? Knowing that there will be many more, and that there's going to be rough patches and there's going to be hiccups, but you've established a relationship, usually with more than one stakeholder, that can rise above to work through those challenges, in a professional services business like Breakthrough.
So I have to ask, have you ever been to a Michelin Star restaurant?
I have.
Okay.
And
where?
Now that you asked that, my team, geez, now my team's going to razz me even more. I have been to a few Michelin Star restaurants. My wife and I have been fortunate to travel internationally.
Wonderful.
I have been to Contrast with a K, and that was in Oslo, Norway. I also went to a Michelin starred restaurant in Sydney, Australia, and we went to one in Italy as well.
Very cool.
I will say, so now my team is going to be like, John, when are you bringing us to, there's plans in the works to get Team Breakthrough. But I will say, we did, late in 2021, we actually did an 8-week curriculum. It was a quarterly rock for the team around getting more alignment around Michelin star standards, right? Because not everyone is a huge foodie, and really understanding here are the 5, here's how it originated. Here are the 5 standards that are applied, and how can we apply those 5 standards to our business? So there was kind of a homework assignment weekly, and then we had a discussion, and then it was capped off with a pretty cool event. But we watched a specific episode of Chef's Table and then had a discussion about it. We listened to a podcast from a restaurateur. We read a white paper by Deloitte about how the future of hotels are people-centered. Activities like we watched Jiro Dreams of Sushi. And then to cap it off, and I think this is kind of my response to it, doesn't necessarily need to be a Michelin starred restaurant because we're applying this to our business. But we had a local chef, Yi Vang, here in Minneapolis, who's actually now been nominated for a James Beard Award for Best Chef Midwest. But we had Yi Vang come in and give a private dining experience. And it was actually called a Vinay Feast. He's of Hmong heritage and was a Hmong immigrant. And Vinay was actually the concentration camp where his family grew up. So it was a tremendously powerful evening. But he laid out, we stacked tables together. There was no silverware. He laid out banana leaves and then constructed this feast for, our team of 20, and then talked for about 45 minutes or an hour about his background and his heritage. But also we got to ask some questions around how he can apply high standards, and of that Michelin caliber in a completely different type of restaurant or type of business.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I've been fortunate to go to a couple of Michelin star restaurants, but I think there aren't any in the state of Minnesota, but I think it's more around understanding that level of service,
Mm-hmm.
and the relationship that comes with that really brings loyalty.
Mm-hmm. And obviously those standards have been very translated very well into your company. You guys have had great success, and just congratulations. And we certainly wish you continued success. John, this has been
Well, thank
very,
you.
very insightful. Very much enjoyed speaking with you. So before we recap and say goodbye, is there anything you would like to plug?
Well, if any of your listeners are interested in experiencing what working with an aspiring Michelin star marketing and technology firm is like, or have a complex challenge to solve, we should chat.
Okay.
Outside of that, I think I would love to, feel free to connect with me or anyone on my team to chat, stress test, or challenge anything I said. We could spar or just connect in general, around our core values, our business and how we've grown, or anything else. The pandemic has forced me personally to get a lot better at generating connections, through LinkedIn and other platforms that are much outside of my normal social circle and my geography. So happy to connect virtually or on another podcast as well.
Yeah, this is really great, and obviously super beneficial for our customers who obviously own their own business, or are entrepreneurs, or who are just work at companies, right? Who are looking to establish core values or build their core values. And what we've learned from John today is that your core values are kind of based on this fine dining approach, but they are the foundation for Breakthrough. It's not only the foundation of your team internally, but how the team works externally with customers, and kind of uses that as the foundation of relationships with customers as well. And it's making sure you're evaluating these values as you go, to ensure that you're always kind of knowing as a company like who you are, where you want to go, right? So thank you, John. This has been great. So again, we wish you continued success. We very much appreciate the opportunity to highlight the agency, your accomplishments. Look forward to working with you again in the future. And thanks to our listeners as well for your support. And keep up with us on Twitter at SmartRepPod. And just be sure to also subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, so you can be the first to know when our next episode drops. Thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon.